In this video I'm going to talk about the best single-player games available on PS5 right now. Having already been remastered for the PS4 back in 2014, it could perhaps be argued that The Last of Us Part 1 was an unnecessary endeavor on Naughty Dog's part. However, few would dare dispute the fact that the PS5 version of The Last of Us Part 1 offers a much better experience than the 2014 remaster, with the first act of Ellie and Joel's journey having been lovingly remade from the ground up. Those who already own The Last of Us Remastered probably don't need to splash out for the 2022 remake, at least not at full price, anyway. However, for those who enjoyed the fantastic HBO series and are now looking to check out the game for the first time, The Last of Us Part 1 really is a no-brainer. It's also an excellent choice for anyone looking for an incredible narrative-driven experience, as very few games can offer better. The next game is part of a series that has not only recently received 2 remasters but has also gained a new wave of popularity thanks to a series available on HBO. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered brings the emotional journey of Ellie and Joel to new technical heights. The game is renowned for its narrative depth, exploring themes of revenge and redemption and being one of the best PlayStation 5 games. From a gameplay perspective, it's a stealth title where we primarily try to slip unnoticed through large, semi-open maps, bearing in mind that every bullet we fire may mean that in 5 minutes, we'll have nothing to defend ourselves with. The remastered version boasts improved graphics and audio, enriching the already gripping storyline. This is a title that, due to its challenging themes, complex and fascinating characters, and incredible though often somber fates of the protagonists, will linger in your memory for a long time. It's a must-have for every PlayStation 5 owner and self-respecting gamer. Death Stranding Director's Cut takes the truly unique Strand game adventure and dials things up a notch for PS5. Hideo Kojima and his team created a haunting and strange world with the original game, tasking players with traversing a desolate and dangerous landscape to make deliveries. It shouldn't work, but it does. Every step you take can be a risk, and this need to watch your footing is an interesting way to create tension, especially when those nasty BTs show up. Director's Cut enhances the experience with improved graphics and performance, DualSense support, 3D audio, and a range of new content. A lot of people questioned whether Final Fantasy XVI can truly be classed as a Final Fantasy game due to how drastically it changes up the series' tried and tested formula. Whichever side of the fence one falls on, it would be difficult to dispute the idea that these changes have made the game more accessible, with the combat system borrowing a lot from popular hack-and-slash franchises like God of War and Devil May Cry. Fans of intense action should love what Final Fantasy XVI has to offer, while the ridiculous amount of side content should be able to keep most players busy for at least 40 or 50 hours. Ironically, it's existing Final Fantasy fans who may struggle to fully appreciate Clive's journey, but despite the game's lack of many traditional RPG elements and the shallow nature of many of those that are included, most should be able to find some enjoyment here. The Harry Potter saga is known to virtually every contemporary individual, until 2023. However, it was hard to find a competently made game that would allow us to become a Hogwarts student and immerse ourselves in this incredible world. Fortunately, this situation has changed, as Hogwarts Legacy has forever silenced all the pessimists and muggles who claimed that a good game in this universe would never be released. It's not a strictly PS5 single-player game per se. It's available for Xbox Series and PCs, too, but Sony's powerful hardware allows players to experience the wizarding world in all of its glory. Set in the 1800s, our created wizard will attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, embarking on a journey filled with enchantment and danger. The game is applauded for its immersive world building and the freedom to explore the vast magical world. The spellcasting system and interactions with magical creatures offer a unique gameplay experience. The graphics and audio faithfully recreate the atmosphere of the beloved franchise. For fans of J.K. Rowling's work, this title is a must-have, as it allows you to experience the magical atmosphere that we've been missing all these years. Not that it needed to, but with Returnal, Housemarque has proven itself an incredibly capable studio. This PS5 exclusive is a frantic, ultra-tight third-person shooter dressed up with some roguelike elements to add variety and unpredictability to the mix, and the result is wonderful. Trapped in a loop on a hostile alien world, Celine is forced to relive her fateful crash landing each time she dies. There's an amazing sense of accomplishment as you slowly progress through challenging boss encounters and explore 6 diverse environments full of randomized weapons, perks, and power-ups. It feels amazing to play, especially with amazing support for the DualSense features, and the addictive gameplay is complemented by an enigmatic story that will leave you guessing. Elden Ring is a phenomenal game on just about every level. It looks great, The combat is fantastic, and the lore of the lands between is incredibly well fleshed out. Granted, like many other From Software titles, the game does feature some multiplayer elements, but the optional nature of Elden Ring's multiplayer arguably places the game very firmly in single-player territory. Those looking for a challenging yet rewarding game can definitely find that here, not to mention a surprising amount of options when it comes to character builds. Certain setups can completely change the gameplay experience for players, allowing them to play to their own personal strengths or mix things up a little to provide an additional layer of challenge. The differences between Resident Evil 2 on PS4 and PS5 are few and far between, but its everlasting quality remains. This is still a spectacular remake of the 1998 survival horror classic, modernizing Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield's first adventure with a third-person camera and vastly updated visuals. The Raccoon Police Department has never looked more terrifying with a native 4K resolution and ray tracing on PS5, so leave enough room to peek over the covers and experience one of the best horror experiences around. For the most part, Capcom has done an exceptional job of remaking some of the older Resident Evil games, and 2023's Resident Evil 4 is no exception in this regard. In fact, some will perhaps argue that it's the pick of the bunch, with only the Resident Evil 2 remake really coming close to the brilliance of this hugely influential game. Not all of the changes are for the better, but those made to the companion character Ashley make the remake a lot less frustrating, while the work done to flesh out some of the game's secondary characters helps to improve the game's narrative. To a certain extent though, this is as much a reimagining as it is a remake, with the 2023 title offering a different, albeit familiar experience. Up until Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart released, Insomniac Games' dynamic duo had been wilting in the wilderness a little bit. The PS4 reboot, Ratchet and Clank, was well received, but it felt lightweight compared to classic series entries like Ratchet and Clank, A Crack in Time. Fortunately, while Rift Apart doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, it does deliver the series' first full-scale adventure in well over a generation. This is a game that feels great to play, thanks in part to stunning DualSense integration and some of the glitziest special effects this side of the galaxy. It's a little more throwaway than many of the PS5's other exclusives, but it's thoroughly entertaining while it lasts, and the introduction of new characters like Rivet mean there's a lot of life left in this series yet. The playable protagonist's design may have drawn some criticism, but few can dispute the beauty of Horizon Forbidden West's luscious open world. It's one of the best-looking games on the PS5 and backs up its impressive visuals with a thought-provoking narrative and a suite of wonderfully well-realized gameplay mechanics. Horizon Forbidden West picks up where its predecessor left off, with Aloy and Silas trying to learn more about the Far Zeniths. The Burning Shores DLC further fleshes out the series' lore, while also introducing a few new mechanics, one of which allows the player's mount to dive underwater. It's one of the best single-player games on the PS5 and a reminder of why Sony rules the roost when it comes to first-party exclusives. Offered as an added incentive as part of Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales' pricier Ultimate Edition, a somewhat strange delivery mechanism should take nothing away from Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. Insomniac Games invested a huge amount of effort here, rebuilding New York City to take full advantage of the PS5 hardware, without interfering with the critically acclaimed action of the PS4 original. Some vocal fans were frustrated by the changes to protagonist Peter Parker's face, but with new visual effects like ray tracing, in addition to silky smooth 60 frames per second refresh rates, this is the definitive way to experience Sony's superb superhero sandbox. Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales was released alongside the PlayStation 5, offering players a chance to return to the beautifully rendered streets of New York that helped to make its predecessor such a hit with players. The deluxe edition of the game even comes bundled with a remastered version of Marvel's Spider-Man, providing excellent value for those who never got a chance to experience the PS4 classic. Even without this upgrade though, Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales stands tall on its own 2 feet, with a compelling single-player storyline and a wide array of side activities and collectibles to keep players busy during their downtime. Such is the quality of the game's map traversal, simply swinging around the city streets can also serve as an excellent distraction and provides a sense of freedom that few other games can match. Sony comfortably hooked the enthusiast crowd by adding Demon's Souls to the PS5's launch lineup, From Software's legendary action RPG, which would go on to spawn the so-called Soulsborne series and, eventually, even Elden Ring, was snubbed by the Japanese giant during the PS3 era, as it felt early builds were simply not up to snuff. publishers like Atlas and Bandai Namco eventually picked it up, and it went on to become a cult classic. Perhaps as a tacit admission that it made a mistake, it's recruited tech specialists Bluepoint Games to remake the game for a modern era, and the results are remarkable. This version uses original PS3 code to make for an incredibly authentic experience, but its visuals are among some of the best you'll find on Sony's new-gen console. Our list kicks off in true Hollywood fashion. What's better than a full-on action and explosion-packed adventure with a charismatic hero reminiscent of a modern-day Indiana Jones? The entire series of remastered titles featuring the aforementioned hero was released on PS5. Ladies and gentlemen, behold the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, which brings the adventures of the charismatic Nathan Drake to the latest console generation. Known for its cinematic storytelling and exhilarating action sequences, players will traverse forgotten temples, encounter fantastically crafted characters, and unravel ancient mysteries. This series of games received critical acclaim for its refined graphics, which provided a more immersive experience. The audio track resonates with beloved adventure films, where often the music itself emphasizes the adventure more than what was happening in the visual presentation. Without a doubt, the Uncharted series is one of the best single-player games on PlayStation 5. Following the positive reception to Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order, it was practically inevitable that a sequel would follow. Star Wars Jedi: Survivor takes place 5 years after its predecessor, following the story of a more experienced Cal Kestis. As its name suggests, this game is about Kestis attempting to survive against the Galactic Empire while forging his own path. Survivor plays much like Fallen Order, but includes plenty of gameplay improvements, along with a few surprising story twists to keep things interesting. Ghost of Tsushima: Director's Cut repackages one of the greatest open-world games of the PS4 era on the PS5. A breakout hit for first-party developer Sucker Punch, this expanded re-release includes a new idyllic samurai sandbox named Iki Island, and forces protagonist Jin Sakai to face some painful memories. With improved presentation and stunning DualSense support, allowing you to physically feel the clash of steel on steel in your fingertips, this is the definitive version of one of PlayStation Studios' crowning achievements. There really is very little to choose between God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring, with the two titles going blow for blow across various 2022 Game Awards ceremonies. Kratos and Atreus have the edge when it comes to user-friendliness though, with the conclusion to the pair's adventure through Norse mythology catering to a much broader demographic due to the game's simpler combat system and its fantastic selection of accessibility options. This isn't to say that God of War Ragnarok is easy, far from it. In fact, playing the game on Give Me God of War mode can be every bit as challenging as some of Elden Ring's toughest content, if not more so. There's plenty of fantastic side content on offer too, which, when combined with the excellent story and everything else that Santa Monica Studio was able to cram in, makes God of War Ragnarok one of the best single-player games on the PS5, if not the very best. For a franchise that has no shortage of experimental entries in its back catalog, Capcom knows how to make a traditional Biohazard campaign when it wants to. Resident Evil Village adopts the first-person perspective of Resident Evil 7, but this time offers a confident and familiar romp through a sinister Romanian village. With an eclectic cast of curious, but occasionally underdeveloped, villains, the true character of this sequel is the setting itself, which harbors countless secrets and some truly memorable moments. And for those rocking a PSVR 2, the full game is playable in virtual reality, which really ratchets up the intensity with overhauled controls and impressive visuals. Cyberpunk 2077 is a far cry from the buggy mess it was at launch. Thanks to a wealth of updates and patches, the game is now in excellent condition, offering an immersive sci-fi experience where you can tailor your character to fit your playstyle. Patch 2.0, completely overhauled character customization, allowing you to play anything from a bullet-deflecting cyborg ninja to a powerful hacker who can explode enemies with their mind. Released more than a decade on from the original game, Alan Wake 2 is an incredibly impressive title, both when it comes to its visuals and its plot. There are times when the imagery shown could pass convincingly as live-action video, while the storytelling on offer here really is top-notch. Granted, horror purists may not be too impressed by the game's over-reliance on jump scares, and although innovative, the mind-place mechanics can be a little janky at times. Even so, the overall experience remains a highly enjoyable one and helps make this one of the best single-player games on the PS5. By the time I went through my final run of DEATHLOOP, I thought I would have walked away from the game feeling like a superpowered, time-bending assassin. Instead, the game made me feel like a masterful speedrunner. That's because there's only one way to succeed in this time-looping game. To win, I must memorize the routines of all my assassination targets throughout 4 unique times of the day. Not only that, I have to set up specific scenarios so I can put them all at the right place at the right time to get eliminated. Mastering everything I needed to know took around 20 hours of living the same day over and over again. The payoff for all that hard work had me at the edge of my seat. Grand Theft Auto V is arguably one of the most popular games of all time. It went on to sell over 150 million copies and is the most profitable piece of entertainment in history. Most of its financial success has to do with Grand Theft Auto Online, but its single-player mode is worth checking out as well. It features 3 playable protagonists, Franklin, Michael, and Trevor, all of whom can be switched to on the fly. The story is wild and bonkers, as you'd expect, with some of the best writing and performances the series has seen. The gameplay has been expanded upon from the previous iterations, with a first-person mode available for the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game. Speaking of enhanced versions, a next-gen version of Grand Theft Auto V will launch for PS5 and Xbox Series X/S in 2022. Geralt's actions may at times be a bit more morally gray than Drake's, but the character is every bit as lovable, if not more so. Just like Naughty Dog, CD Projekt Red made the brave decision to conclude the character's journey at the end of The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, with future Witcher titles set to star a brand new protagonist rather than the fan-favorite Witcher. To say that The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt provides a fitting conclusion to Geralt's tale would perhaps be a bit of an understatement. It's one of the best single-player games ever made, with a fantastic narrative and plenty of incredible side content. The PS5 version offers plenty of big improvements over its PS4 predecessor, making it a great option for those looking to relive the CD Projekt Red classic or experience it for the very first time. If you'd asked us 10 years ago if a new Armored Core game would make our list of the best PlayStation 5 games, we have said we didn't think a new Armored Core game would even exist by then. But happily, From Software decided to cash in some of the huge cultural and financial status it earned from the phenomenal successes of Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring to revive its old-school mech combat franchise. It's fitting that it pops up on this list, too, because Armored Core was historically a PlayStation series. Baldur's Gate 3 stands as one of the best single-player games around, offering a sprawling campaign full of exploration, moral dilemmas, and challenging turn-based combat. Set in the well-established fantasy world of Dungeons & Dragons, Baldur's Gate 3 allows you to blaze your own trail through its fleshed-out setting, offering a degree of player agency seldom seen in gaming. Superhero games have come an awfully long way over the past few decades, with Spider-Man and Batman doing much of the heavy lifting. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 arguably perfects the formula, building upon the strong foundations laid by its 2018 predecessor while also offering up one of the best Spider-Man video game storylines in recent memory. Although the game does struggle to balance out its 2 playable protagonists' time in the spotlight and the combat can at times feel a little repetitive, these issues are easy to overlook due to how much fun the overall experience can be. As a result, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is one of the best single-player PS5 games and a must-play for fans of superhero games. Red Dead Redemption 2 tells the story of Arthur Morgan, a member of the notorious Van der Linde gang, hanging on at the tail end of the Wild West era. As you embody Arthur, you get to know him and the people around him. Eventually, you'll be immersed to the point that you feel real affection for each character. No list of the best single-player games could be complete without it. With the best turn-based gameplay, the biggest and best cast of characters, and the most gripping story in the series so far, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is comfortably the greatest Yakuza game to date. Ishikin and Kiryu hit up the new destination of Hawaii in search of the former's long-lost mother, but their quest really is just the tip of the iceberg. Improved combat makes fights more engaging than ever, upgraded graphics bring new life to classic locations like Kamurocho, and deep and fascinating characters both new and old mean you won't want to stop playing until the credits roll. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth really is RGG Studio at its peak. Those who enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Remake will definitely want to check out the game's 2024 sequel, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, picking up right where its predecessor left off. The game takes players from the outskirts of Midgar to the Forgotten Capital, with plenty of classic and original content crammed in between the 2 iconic locations. The best single-player PS5 games find ways to push the hardware to its limits, and that's exactly what Rebirth manages to do at various points throughout the adventure. The visuals are stunning and the revamped combat system makes for one of the most enthralling action RPG experiences that the console has to offer. So, did you like the games I recommended? So leave your like, subscribe to the channel to follow me and activate the bell because I post a lot of videos on this channel and you can't miss it. Thank you very much for following me this far and until next time, bye.